This is the network we are going to configure. It consists of 5 different subnets. We will make the 2 routers VSIX1 and VSIX2 here do the subdivision into these 5 different subnets. We will also configure PC1, PC2, PC3 and PC4 to be on their respective subnets. Let us start by configuring VSIX1. I'll bring up the PuTTY terminal connected to VSIX1. We have to configure G001, G002, and G003. And we have to give them these 3 IP addresses respectively, all .1 actually, on their respective subnets. Let's do that over here in our terminal. We see that G001 is configured here with this IP address. G002 is configured here with this IP address. What we need here is the logic for G003. We have to enter that into our configuration. G003 configured here. It's configured for the 10.10.10.0/24 network with this IP address. So all configured in one go here by the address parameter. We're going to put all 3 interfaces here into the same security zone. We will only have 1 security zone at this stage in this course. Here we see our security zone trust with G001 and G002 in it. We want to put G003 in there also. But first I want to rename the trust zone actually. So now I have renamed the trust zone to my trust 1. This doesn't have anything with our configuration logic to do. It's just the naming of the security zone for the 3 interfaces that we are working with here. And we now have our 3 interfaces in the security zone named my trust 1 here. And they are all only actually allowed to respond to ping requests. And we would like to have that to test our network logic. The network interfaces are also allowed to take in other traffic and to route it to the other interfaces according to the routing table. Yeah, and that is what happens sometimes. We have a problem here. We have a policy in our router configuration, in our router logic. Let's take a look at our routing policy. The problem here is that our routing policy tells us or configures the router to allow traffic from interface to interface in the trust zone. But we have renamed the trust zone to, you might remember that, to my trust one. So let us get that fixed here. And that is now fixed. Traffic is allowed now from any interface to any interface here on router VSIX1. That is what we have configured now. Issue a commit. We can now already test this part of our configuration. We can test on PC1 if we can ping its own interface, its own gateway. We can also already test if we can ping our brand new shiny G003 at 10.10.10.1 at IP address. We can do the same tests over from PC2. So let's do that. Let's bring up Workstation. We can now check our routing table. We see we have a route to the 10 network going out on G003, and that's exactly what we expected. We also have a route to the 192.168.10 network going out on G001 over here. So that is exactly what we expected also. We have the 11 network going out on G002 to this network here. Everything is according to our network diagram. Our addressing is correct for G001. We have the 10.1 address here, G001 over here, so that's correct. And finally, for the .11.1 interface, our G002 here, that's also correct. That is what we expected. That is what we have configured. Let us bring up Workstation and test from the PCs. I actually had a packet loss in the first try here to ping my own gateway on PC1, our own gateway there. Hard to say what that could be. Maybe the ARP had problems getting through, I don't know. But I ran it a second time right after the first time, and then it was successfully. Just to be sure for the stability, I'll run it again actually and see what happens. Okay, and now it works seamlessly. The new thing here is that we could also ping the 10.10.10.1 interface, our brand new shiny interface over here on G003 at address.1. So we already know that that interface is up, running, ready to go, and we can ping it. We do not yet have configured any routing over to VSIX2. Let us do the same tests over on PC2. Oh, that's not powered up, so let's get it fired up. And that can also ping seamlessly our new G003 up on the router. So there's a good chance that everything is working. But we can do a little bit more test. We can take a look at the router table here in PC2, where we are now. With name resolution, we can see that Linux has resolved the IP addresses that Linux know. It will resolve into the names that it knows of. So we have default, gateway, and link local. They correspond to down here. This default, that is our default gateway, and that is rightly on 11.1 as we have it over here, 11.1 there for our PC2. Link local, this address here, I will urge you to look that up, Google it and see what link local means. Finally, we can see that we have the route to the 192.168.11 network, and that is exactly where PC2 is sitting. Everything will go out on ENS33 because that's the only interface we have over on PC2. So after having set up the left-hand side of our network, we will move over to the right-hand side. Let us start by configuring VSIX2. We have to correct pipe into VSIX2, name something different from VSIX1. Powering on VSIX2. We already have interfaces 2 and 1 in our configuration, but we can see that the networks are not correct, so we have to correct them. We also have to add GE004. So here is how to change the 10 network to the 12 network, as I call it. We will do the same for the 13 network. And in this way, we have substituted the 11.1, replaced it with 13.1, as we see over here, 13.1, and testing that it's correct. And don't forget to commit. So we have all our three interfaces. Note that the 4 interface is at IP address 2, as over on router VSIX1, the interface is at address 1, and those addresses have to be different. Next, we have to set up the security. I have changed the name again over here on VSIX2 so that I have my trust 2 here. We have to correct the name here from trust to my trust 2 to my trust 2. And that was done here, apart from a little misspelling here of a pattern. Don't forget to commit. Let's take a look at the routes that we have configured now. We have a route to the 10.10.10 network over here. out on G004. We have a route to the 192.168.12 network out on G001. Is the network, so that's correct. And finally, we have a route out on G002 to the 13 network. So, and now let us configure the PCs. And we can see here that PC3 is not connected to anything up here. If you look in the networking icon up here in the upper right corner, that's because PC3 was configured over for the VSIX1. So we have to configure it for the VSIX2 and the new subnet here. And something is wrong because our network will not connect here. So let's see what that could be. And here's my mistake. I had set this to automatic DHCP, the method for achieving an IP address or acquiring an IP address. It has to be manual, very important, manual there. So here we go. And our interface has the correct address settings here. Let us configure PC4. Our PCs and VSIX, they are all now configured. Here we have the POTI terminal connected to VSIX1 and the terminal connected to VSIX2. I have also listed the respective routing tables as we have configured. If PC1 wants to ping, for example, PC4, PC1 will send that IP packet up to VSIX1, but the problem is that VSIX1 doesn't have a route over to the 192.168.13 network. So VSIX1 will not know where to send that packet. So we have to configure that now. We have to tell VSIX1 where is 13 network, as I call it. When we do that manually, we have to enter something called static routes in our SIXers here. So what we enter here is a static route. We will reach the network 12. And in order to do that, the IP packet should be sent over to the 10.10.10.2 interface. That means that it will arrive on VSIX2, who will know where that is. We can see that in the VSIX2 routing table, it knows exactly where to send a packet that is for the 12 network. It has to go out on G001 down here. G001 will hit the 12 network. And the same for the 13 network. It's the same interface we have to send the IP packet to. And issue a commit. A ping from PC1 to PC4 now will travel out from PC1 to the router. VSIX1 will consult its routing table. It will find that the 13 network has to go to this IP address. It will make a second lookup, and the 10 network is there, and it's on G003, which is exactly there. So the packet will travel over to VSIX2. VSIX2 will make a lookup and see that the 13 network is there on the G002 at interface, which is there, and the packet would travel down to PC4 as it should. We can copy the command from over here and make it easier. Be careful not to copy the garage return there, because that will make it difficult to enter this command over in the other terminal. Right click over here and edit. We can note here that protocol is set to static for our newly entered static routes. And we can see here that PC1 can ping PC4. Test that everybody can ping everybody. PC2 can ping PC3 and 4, and so forth.